My name is Suzanne Donahue. I'm 32 years old, and until last Christmas, I still believed there were lines my parents would never cross. I was wrong. Christmas Eve. At my parents' house always looked perfect from the outside. Warm lights glowing through the windows, cars packed into the driveway, music spilling out so loudly you could hear it before you even reached the door. It looked like love lived there. Inside, it felt like a performance. My older sister Lauren's kids were already on the floor when we walked in, half buried in wrapping paper. Boxes everywhere, bright screens already glowing, laughter exploding from every corner of the room. Then the screaming started, because my brother-in-law walked in from the garage carrying a crate. Inside it was a tiny golden puppy, wrapped with a ridiculous red bow. People actually gasped. Phones flew up. Someone yelled, "No way!" like we were filming a commercial. My mother clapped her hands together. My father laughed loud and proud, soaking it all in. I stood near the door, holding my daughter Savannah. She's 4, still at that age where she believes Christmas magic doesn't run out. She was clutching a drawing she'd been working on for days. Stick figures in bright colors, little hearts floating above everyone's heads, a Christmas tree in the middle with the words, "Happy Together," scribbled across the top. She slipped out of my arms and ran straight to my father. "Grandpa," she said, holding it up like it was the most important thing in the world. He glanced at it for maybe 2 seconds. Thanks," he muttered. Then he folded it, once, carelessly, and set it on the counter before walking away to refill his drink. That was it. No smile, no comment, no acknowledgement that a 4-year-old had just given him something she was genuinely proud of. My mother smiled, that tight, rehearsed smile she uses when she wants everything to look normal. Savannah stood there for a moment, confused. Then the music pulled her attention away, and she drifted toward her cousins, watching them rip open box after box. I told myself not to overthink it. Maybe her presents were in another room. Maybe they were saving them for later. I leaned down and whispered that Santa sometimes saves surprises for the end. She nodded, trusting me without question. The gift opening continued. Lauren's kids, one after another. Tablets, gaming systems, headphones. Lauren got a designer purse. Her husband got an expensive smartwatch. My parents exchanged gifts with each other. Even the puppy got a bone wrapped in shiny paper. Savannah sat cross-legged on the carpet the entire time, hands folded neatly in her lap, smiling like she still believed something was coming. No one called her name. No box slid her way. No stocking appeared. I waited. I kept waiting for someone to laugh and say, "Oh, we forgot one." No one did. The wrapping paper was cleared. The music changed. People started talking about dinner. I leaned toward my mother and asked quietly, "Did you guys have something for Savannah?" She looked at my father. He didn't lower his voice. "She didn't earn it," he said. The room didn't react. That was the worst part. He went on casually, like he was explaining a parking rule, not after the way she acted last time. He meant the meltdown. 2 weeks earlier, missed nap, too much noise, too many people. She cried. Apparently that was enough to disqualify her from Christmas. No one defended her. My sister stared at her phone. My mother picked up a tray of cookies. My niece ran by, laughing with a VR headset strapped to her face. I felt something inside me go completely cold. I walked over, grabbed Savannah's jacket, and told her we were leaving. She didn't cry. She just looked up at me and asked, in that soft, hopeful voice, "Did Santa maybe leave my presents at home instead?" I smiled because I had to. "Maybe he did," I said. The car ride home was quiet. I kept it together until I opened the trunk and just sat there for a moment, breathing, replaying the image of my daughter, sitting empty-handed while everyone else was chosen. At 9:20 p.m., my phone buzzed. A text from my father. "Don't forget the utility payment." The same man who had just watched my child sit through Christmas with nothing while the family dog got a stocking. I didn't reply. But I made myself a promise that night. I wasn't going to play this game anymore. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Savannah sitting on the carpet, her hands folded in her lap like she was trying to be good enough to be noticed. 4 years old, smiling through disappointment because she still believed adults didn't do things like that on purpose. By morning, I was running on coffee and anger I didn't want to name yet. Savannah woke up early, like she always did on Christmas morning, and padded into the living room in her socks. I had hidden a small stack of presents in the guest closet weeks earlier, things I'd planned to give her later at my parents' house so she wouldn't feel overwhelmed. Crayons, a puzzle, 2 picture books, a winter jacket with glittery snowflakes she'd pointed at in Target and then put back without asking. I moved them under our little tree before she came in. When she saw them, she gasped so loudly I thought she might cry. "Santa came," she yelled. I knelt beside her and told her maybe Santa had just been running late. Maybe he stopped by while she was sleeping. She accepted it instantly. That kind of faith, where everything still makes sense if you want it to. She spent the morning building a fort out of couch cushions, narrating an entire story about how Santa forgot to stop at Grandma and Grandpa's house but remembered later and came to ours instead. I smiled and nodded and let her believe it. Around 10 a.m., my phone buzzed. I didn't even have to look. "Can you come by and help me fix the shed door? Blew off in the wind last night." It didn't make me angry. It made me tired. The shed was part of the second house. My house, the one my parents had been living in rent-free for nearly 3 years. It used to be a rental, but when their own place started falling apart, I stepped in because I didn't want them stressed or scrambling. I handed them a key and told them to stay as long as they needed. Apparently, generosity didn't come with any expectation of decency. I stared at the screen, then typed back, "Can't today." His reply came almost instantly. "Won't take long." 10 minutes later, another text, "Please." He had never said please to me in a text before. That should have softened me. Instead, it made something settle into place. "Not today," I typed. No explanation, no apology, just 2 words. A few minutes passed. Then my phone buzzed again. This time, my mother. "Are you mad?" I didn't answer. She wasn't asking because she cared how I felt. She wanted to know how much trouble they were in, and how long I planned to hold it. The phone rang. My father. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. I answered. He said he was standing outside in the cold, holding the shed door in place. Said it would only take 20 minutes if I just came by. Said the wind might ruin the whole frame if it didn't get fixed soon. "I'm not coming," I said. There was a pause. Then he laughed. Not a real laugh. That scoffing sound he makes when he thinks someone's being dramatic. "Seriously?" he said. "Yes," I replied. Another pause. Then the line went dead. No argument, no yelling, just hung up, like I wasn't worth a goodbye. I stared at my phone and realized something that made my chest feel heavy and light at the same time. That was the first time I had ever told him no. Not because I couldn't help, but because I didn't want to. The rest of the day was quiet. Savannah played with her new toys, building stories where Santa always fixed his mistakes. I sat on the couch and watched her, letting the calm sink in. Around noon the next day, I saw my father's car drive past our house. Slowly. Then again, 20 minutes later. I knew what was coming. At 1:00 p.m., there was a knock on the door. I opened it just enough to see him standing there, hands in his coat pockets, face tight with irritation. He didn't apologize. He didn't ask how we were. He didn't even look at me. "Is Savannah home?" he asked, peering past me. That's when I knew he hadn't come to fix anything. He came for something else. I didn't open the door any wider. "Yes," I said, "but you're not coming in." My father sighed, like I was inconveniencing him. "I just need a minute. She needs to hear something from me." That sentence alone made my stomach tighten. "She doesn't need anything from you," I replied. He waved it off. "Suzanne, don't make this into something it's not." He stepped forward anyway. I didn't move. I held the door exactly where it was, my hand braced against the frame. Years ago, I would have backed up automatically. Habit. Training. Not this time. He called her name. Loudly. Confidently. Like he expected her to come running. And for a split second, pure reflex, I did what I'd always done. "Savannah," I called. She appeared at the doorway in her Christmas pajamas, holding one of her new animal puppets. When she saw him, her face lit up instantly. "Hi, Grandpa," she said, waving. It broke my heart how quickly she forgot the night before. How easily kids forgive when they don't even understand what they're forgiving. She started talking right away, about how Santa came late, about her crayons and her books, about her sparkly snowflake jacket. She asked if he wanted to see the fort she built. He crouched slightly, enough to seem engaged. He smiled, but there was no warmth in it, just a thin, crooked smirk. "You know why Santa didn't bring you any presents at Grandma and Grandpa's house, right?" he said. Savannah froze. I felt the air shift. "Because you were bad," he continued, nodding like he was explaining something obvious. "That's why Santa skips bad kids. Everybody knows that." Her smile disappeared. Her hands dropped to her sides, the puppet dangling uselessly from her fingers. "If you behave better next year," he added, "maybe you'll get something then, but not this year." Then he looked at me, proud, like he'd just taught her an important lesson. Savannah didn't cry. She didn't argue. She just turned around and walked back into the living room. The puppet slipped from her hand and hit the floor. That was it. I opened the door wider, not to let him in, but to make sure he could hear me. "Get out," I said. He blinked. "What?" "Leave, now." "Suzanne, don't overreact," he said, straightening up. "She needs to toughen up. The world—" "No," I cut in. My voice didn't shake. That surprised me. You don't get to come into my house and tell my child she doesn't deserve love." He scoffed. "You're being dramatic." "I'm being done." I told him not to come back, not to call, not to text. I told him this wasn't temporary and it wasn't up for discussion. Whatever relationship he thought we still had ended the moment he chose to punish my daughter for having feelings. He muttered under his breath, "That girl's going to grow up weak." I closed the door in his face. Inside, Savannah was sitting on the couch, the puppet in her lap, not playing, just staring at nothing. I sat beside her and asked what was wrong. She whispered, "I think Santa forgot me because I was bad." Something inside my chest cracked. I told her Santa didn't forget her, that Santa brought her presents to Grandma and Grandpa's house, but the grown-ups made a mistake and forgot to give them to her. I told her Santa always sees. She looked up at me, hopeful. "Really? Really?" I said. That night, after she fell asleep, I got in the car and drove across town. I bought glittery earmuffs, a snow globe with a ballerina, socks with cartoon cats. I wrapped them at midnight, writing messy handwriting on the tags. From Santa, from Grandma, from Grandpa. The next morning, they were sitting on our doorstep. Savannah screamed when she saw them, not a sad scream, a joyful one. "He remembered me," she shouted. "Grandpa remembered me." I told her she was a good kid, a great kid, that sometimes adults mess up, but Santa never does. She smiled all day. I didn't smile at all, because I finally admitted the truth to myself. They didn't just forget her. They never truly saw us. By that afternoon, the truth felt too heavy to keep pretending around. My parents weren't confused. They weren't forgetful. They weren't old and set in their ways. They were deliberate. I watched Savannah twirl through the living room in those ridiculous cat socks, laughing as the snow globe spilled fake glitter over her hands. Every sound she made felt like proof that she was okay, for now. But I wasn't, because the house my parents were living in, the one they treated like a birthright, was mine. I'd bought it years earlier as a rental, back when I was still trying to prove I could stand on my own without asking anyone for help. When their own house started falling apart, they'd called me in a panic. I didn't hesitate. I handed them the keys and told them to stay as long as they needed. No rent, no timeline. I told myself that was what good daughters did. That afternoon, I drove over. I didn't call ahead. My mother opened the door like she'd been waiting for me. Her face was tight, lips pressed thin. "You're really doing this?" she asked. "I am," I said. "You have 3 days." She stared at me. 3 days for what? "To pack. I want the house empty, keys on the counter." She shook her head like I'd lost my mind. "This is a misunderstanding. It was just a toy." "It wasn't about a toy," I said. "It was about telling my child she didn't deserve Christmas." My father appeared behind her, arms crossed. He didn't look guilty. He looked irritated. "You're overreacting," he said. "Kids forget these things." "She won't forget feeling unwanted," I replied. "I won't forget you teaching her that love is conditional." Lauren showed up halfway through, drawn by the drama, like she always was. She laughed when she heard. "You're jealous," she said. "Dad's always been harder on you. You should be used to it by now." That hurt more than I expected. 3 days, I repeated. Then I changed the locks. That night, the text started. Accusations, guilt, threats about lawyers, messages from relatives asking what I'd done this time. I didn't answer any of them. By the 3rd day, the house was empty. The keys were left under the mat. I stood alone in the quiet living room, expecting relief. Instead, it felt heavy. As I turned to leave, there was a knock at the door. It wasn't them. It was Aunt Janice, standing there with grocery bags and a careful expression. "I saw everything," she said softly. We sat at the kitchen table while she told me what she'd witnessed. She'd been in the hallway during the gift exchange. She saw Savannah hand my father her drawing, saw him fold it like it didn't matter, saw her sit there, waiting, while everyone else opened presents. "I should have said something," Janice admitted. "I was afraid of him." She handed me 2 wrapped gifts, one for Savannah, one for me. Mine said, "From someone who knows you're not crazy." She hugged Savannah, whispered something about Santa's backup team, and made her laugh. Before leaving, Janice looked at me and said, "You did the right thing, even if it doesn't feel like it yet." That night was quiet. Savannah fell asleep on the couch with her new gift in her arms. For a moment, I thought it was over. Then I saw my father standing in the driveway. I didn't step outside. I opened the door just enough to hear him. He stood in the driveway with his hands in his coat pockets, shoulders hunched, like the cold had finally reached him, or maybe like he expected sympathy. "I figured you'd cooled off by now," he said. "We should talk." I waited. He cleared his throat. "This has gone too far. Over one incident." He talked about fairness, about the house, about how families don't turn on each other over a child's outburst. He never said Savannah's name. I told him she had feelings, and he punished her for them. She won't remember, he said. She'll remember feeling unwanted, I replied. And I'll remember everything you said. He sighed, frustrated. This is really about you, Suzanne. You always make things about you. He was right, but not the way he thought. I wanted parents who protected my child, I said. I wanted someone who told her she mattered. Instead, I got silence. I told him he wasn't welcome anymore. Not ever. He turned and walked away without another word. That night, Savannah asked if Santa knew she was good. I told her yes, he always knew. After that, kindness showed up quietly. Neighbors left notes. Small gifts appeared. Aunt Janice came back with pie and a board game. As Savannah slept, Janice told me I'd broken a cycle. The house felt quieter, not just in sound, but in spirit.